aliens have visited Earth. Second, the government have got alien spacecraft. Third, aliens are killing human beings. Will someone get Lockheed Martin on the phone? We're gonna need a bigger missile. Hello there, you 6.4 million awakening wonders. Thank you so much for putting your faith in us, for spending your valuable time learning alongside us now that the world is shifting epocally, plainly before our very eyes as extraterrestrials rain down from the skies. Let me know in the chat and the comments, is this a distraction? Are they trying to pull the wool over our eyes? Or is this the paradigm shift we've been waiting for? The revelations keep rolling out from David Grush. The whistleblower has revealed that he's heard about extraterrestrial craft, and he's even heard that extra-dimensional or terrestrial beings are murdering people. We can rely on our friend from the mainstream media to ask questions about this in a personal, provocative, and peculiarly eerie way. Have a look at this.
The common interpretation from some commentators is that there is a non-human species and it's incredibly benevolently well disposed to the human race.
Yeah, and I think that is the logical fallacy there is because they're advanced, they're kind. We'll never really understand full intent in that because we're not them, whatever them is or are. But I think what appears to be malevolent activity has happened.
Okay, so for the first time, we're considering the ethics and morality and perspective of extraterrestrials. Are they kind, lovely, E.T. type extraterrestrials? Or are they Sigourney Weaver, gut-wrenching extraterrestrials?
Based on not only nuclear site probing activities, witness testimony, I think at least if we look at it through a humanistic lens, it does appear negative, at least to us.
Well, we can't take it personally. These are intergalactic beings. Let's not start worrying about it on the level of, oh no, they might be coming to get us.
I've been told that there have been attempts to bring down craft, that we've acted offensively against non-human craft.
There have been instances, and there are certain techniques.
What a ridiculous approach to take to extraterrestrial life. If you encounter a technology that indicates an advanced civilization, to fire a missile at it seems like a bloody ridiculous thing to do. Like, that the assumption is, well, this means war. Surely we should be approaching this open-mindedly, open-heartedly, but somewhat skeptically, because we know that the mainstream media and government often put out information that's intended to distract us and confuse us, particularly at a time where the Biden administration seems like it's in particular trouble, when Trump is being pursued in peculiar ways, when trust in government and all of our institutions is waning, and when it seems like our systems are beginning to quake and shake and fall apart, when even people at the extremes of the cultural argument are surely beginning to recognise that it's the establishment itself that's the cause of the problem, not the people that they supposedly oppose.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
Now listen, I'm asking you this as a friend. Did those aliens touch you on your dick or your ass? Look, we're talking about extraterrestrials, but we're talking about more than that, aren't we?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
Now I'm scared.
Well, now I'm scared. I came here in good faith to talk about extraterrestrials. It takes a lot to shake me, but you've shaken me to the core. I didn't realise you were going to make me feel this way.
People have just heard you say non-humans may well have murdered human beings.
It's also funny to think of it as a murder when it's an extraterrestrial, because it can't have the motivations. Did that extraterrestrial murder you because it wanted your watch, or because it was jealous that you was looking at its girlfriend? It's like beyond the framing of reality that we have.
That seems to be the case at one point, yeah.
Grush says the craft may not be travelling through space as we understand it.
It is a well-established fact, at least mathematically and based on empirical observation and analysis, that there most likely are physical additional spatial dimensions.
If you're a person that's a nerd about UFOs and extraterrestrials, you'll have heard about some of these theories, the ability to warp and bend and change space, and ideas that exist purely in the realm of the theoretical ideas of Bohm and Planck and all of the great Copenhagen physicists, seemingly in practice with these extraterrestrial vehicles. There's so many ways to approach a story like this. What are the connotations for the way that we use energy? What are the connotations for the way we understand reality? What about morality, the way we organise our systems? And the interviewer Julia as well wants to know how sexy these aliens are. And more importantly, how sexy you are, David.
And you could imagine in 4 and 5D space where what we experience as linear time ends up being a physical dimension in higher dimensional space where if you were living there, you could translate across what we perceive as a linear flow. So there is a possibility that, and this is a theory here, I'm not saying this is 100% the case, but it could be that this is not necessarily extraterrestrial and it's actually coming from a higher dimensional physical space that might be co-located, right here.
One of the things I like about this story is it introduces us to ideas and concepts that challenge the way we look at reality ordinarily and makes it seem ridiculous that we would continue with punitive economic models and martial militaristic outlooks when people can bend time and space and travel between dimensions. When people talk about stuff that might seem a bit tangential and new age, like meditation, reflection, contemplation, changing the way you view reality, altering your obsessive nature with the self, stories like this, for me, assist me on that journey. I think, why am I so obsessed with what I want and what I don't want and my opinions when I'm clearly operating in a tiny cube of potential realities? I agree with you. Of course, this information being released at this time has some sort of significance and relevance. Of course, it's being exploited. Of course it is. But I also have always believed that there is extraterrestrial life, and I've always believed that the government are in contact with them, and I've always believed that that information is concealed because the minute you accept it, you have a kind of spiritual experience. What I mean by that is your inner life alters when you accept that, oh, well, life's just life. You just get on with it. You're born, you live, you die. Death and taxes, that's what's unavoidable. No, space and time and the most basic assumptions of the way that we live are all up for question. And if they're up for question, then everything's up for question. Why would you spend your time worrying about whether the Democrats are better than the Republicans or whether this way of living is better than that way of living? Plainly, you've got to arrive at a broader, more open perspective, a more open-hearted understanding of human life. Our role in the universe has just changed. Maybe that's why people challenge the ideas of someone like Graham Hancock so strongly, because if you start questioning the lineage and heritage of our species, you undermine the assumed narratives that are used to control the way we live today. This is the best it's ever been. We're more advanced. We're the apex of all that's possible. Well, we'll consider some of your ideas, but for now, let's just trust the experts. Look at what happens when we trust the experts. Look at how the experts have lied in the last few years. Look at how certain experts have been ignored in the last few years. Now bring to bear upon all that we've understood in the last 3 years that now, for whatever reason, is becoming more prevalent in our news cycle that we're not alone in the universe. For me, this seems like an end times move. This seems like the kind of information you release when you're running out of ideas, when you recognize that there are challenges around resources, challenges around the population, whether you think it's too big or whether you think it's too small. We've heard both of those arguments here. Whether you need to reorganize your understanding of national sovereignty, your understanding of energy sources. All of these things now are entering into some cyclone, some cauldron where we have to start asking fundamental, pivotal questions. Why don't you start accepting that high-level military security are bringing to the forefront of the conversation extraterrestrial or even extra-dimensional life? Profound questions are being asked, unless you think that this whole thing is just a red flag distraction. Let me know in the chat. And what does it indicate more broadly philosophically? This is from Daniel Pinchbeck's Substack on the subject. Philosopher Bernardo Kastrup explores the dreamlike nature of the world in Why Materialism is Baloney, The Idea of the World, and other works. Kastrup proposes that consciousness is the ontological primitive, that everything we experience occurs within consciousness, and that we ourselves are temporarily disassociated alters of this instinctive, unified field of sentient awareness, which in a sense dreams us into manifestation in order to experience itself from different angles and in many different ways. The modern history of the UFO ET phenomenon is particularly dreamlike and eerie. For Patrick Harper, the world of UFOs and crop circles, as well as the thousands of accounts of strangely detached aliens who perform frightening abductions and often communicate with their victims in nonsensical riddles, is an expression of the daemonic other world. The trickster likes to express itself outside of our limited conceptual categories of thought, breaking apart the distinctions we try to hold between real and fake, physical and imaginary. The UAP ET phenomenon is inherently subversive and liminal. Rife with paradoxes and contradictions, it stubbornly wishes to remain on the margins, most most people are not able to hold their attention on it to take it seriously for very long. There is something about it that continually slips away from one's grasp, one's attention, even when you try to focus on it. It's like the black spot in your gaze after you look at the sun for too long. You have to look away from this spot to see it, but it immediately starts moving away as you start to track it.
Have we made agreements with non-human intelligences?
That's the kind of information I really hope national leadership is able to get to the bottom of.
I need to pin you down on this.
No, I've got to pin you down. I'm not going to just accept that. It's strange, isn't it? Because you have to continually metabolize complex information and then tie it down into bureaucratic and daily quotidian interactions. So what, did Ronald Reagan have a chat with an alien? Did Lincoln see one over the balcony before John Wilkes Booth fired the fatal shot? It has to be made ordinary. It has to be incorporated into our mythology. What I believe is that this is an invitation to start considering the real nature of reality and the limitations of our understanding of reality and the potential that the way that we'll change the world, which is clearly what needs to happen now, the way that we'll reorganise our power structures, the way that we'll reorganise communication, the way that we'll get rid of tired government models that want to surveil and censor and control and continue with sort of weird feudalist ideas from the medieval times, want to perpetuate wars, want to perpetuate control, is by recognising this is a small, finite rock in limitless space. The way that we see reality is tied to our personal and special history and our personal and subjective experience. There are new ways of regarding reality now. Consciousness itself, the fact that you're able to watch this and understand it, the fact that you know what the experience of being you is in a way that no one else will ever understand, has to have some value in the way that we conduct our personal lives and the way we organise our political lives. There's no point in us just marching on, trudging on, pretending that we still live in a time when it isn't possible to organise things differently. And every time we have to consider the possibility that there are intergalactic agreements, life elsewhere, different types of species, different ways of understanding time, different ways of understanding space, the model starts to shake a little more. It starts to seem more and more implausible that the type of decision you're reduced to making is whether or not to buy Bud Light or whether or not to vote for the Democrat Party. It all is exposed as a little bit ridiculous, isn't it?
Are there agreements between non-human intelligences and the American government?
I think that's a question that I would like to know all the details of as well.
Can I put it to you that crimes must have been committed?
All of it seems trivial, doesn't it, in light of the fact that there are extraterrestrials that have been connecting with human governments, potentially for millennia. Have they done any crimes? I mean, I've noticed my stapler's gone missing. Could that have been them?
At the very least, I saw substantive evidence that white-collar crime was committed.
Have people been killed to protect this secret?
He's a good investigator, that Jonathan, because he just wants more and more. Have people been killed to protect this secret? Have there been agreements? These aliens, are they sexy or not? Because one thing's for sure, you are, David.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've heard some really un-American things I don't want to repeat right now.
Un-American at this point?
So you have a strong suspicion that people have been murdered to protect this secret?
Over the years. Yeah.
Okay, there you are. So the UFO story continues. Let me know in the chat. Is this a distraction? Is this an important story? Why isn't there better footage of this stuff? Have you long believed in ETs? Do you see this as connected to the emergence of RFK, to the new conversation around politics, the breaking down of our systems of trust in government and media? Do you see this as the paradigm shift that we've been waiting for, or do you see this as yet another distraction? Let me know in the comments. Remember, we broadcast every single day on Rumble. You can join us there. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these. Turn on the notification bell. My special, Brandemic, is self-funded, uncensored, and available now. There's a link in the description to that as well. Please join us every day for more content like this. But in the meantime, stay free.